within these two sections. So to prepare for the 5G, the government has to clear up the sections so that there will be no interruptions within the sections that are going to be used by 5G. Okay. But it also includes, for example, we have somehow talked about 5G services in the past, and we know it's highly, but the cost to provide 5G services are very high. Okay. And among all those costs, one of the major costs is, you can call it the leasing fees, or the license fee. Of using this spectrum, because you have to somehow lease these sections of spectrum from the government. Okay. Among all those very high costs, one of the very high costs is the leasing fee. And therefore, not all telcos who want to provide 5G services can afford to do so. Okay, because to provide 5G services have a lot of cost. So the new EECC is introduced something like some regulatory measures such as that means different telcos can share one. Well, it may not look very clear within this picture. Let me draw another one. I'll try my best. Okay. In the past, we have discussed somehow about 5G spectrum auction that occurred in Taiwan. Okay, so we know that, for example, this section of spectrums are to be used for 5G services, but different telcos will, by auction, they will use different subsections in this section. For example, the sections for 5G services can be further separated into 4 subsections, 1, 2, 3, 4. Normally, each subsection is to be used by one telco. Okay, so by allowing spectrum sharing, one subsection can be shared use by more than one telco, so that the cost of using these spectrums can be reduced, so that there can be, ideally, so that there can be more telcos providing 5G services. Okay. And this this regulatory measure has also been introduced into Taiwanese spectrum management. So under the current order, well, not the current, because the current binding law is Telecommunications Act in Taiwan, but we have already made another act, but we don't know when will it enter into force yet. But in that future act, this regulatory measure has been introduced. Okay, so if you all remember the result of auction of our 5G auctions, like some of them. Okay, the Chunghwa got the biggest share of the spectrum. I cannot remember right now. Maybe one of the current 4 telcos does not get any spectrum at all. But under this regulatory measure, it will be able to provide 5G service because it can share the spectrum from another telco who has the right to use one of the subsections. And also in the spectrum's preparation for 5G, the situation is the same in Taiwan. The winner, after the result of the auction, the winner will bear some kind of obligation, which may include the construction of how many base stations, maybe 500 base stations, 500 5G base stations, 1,000 base stations. You have to build that many base stations. So there are some obligations come with the result of the 5G auctions. And in the spectrum regulation in the new telecom framework in the European Union, it says, fine, okay, of course you can impose, the regulator can impose some obligations onto the winners of the auction winners of the 5G spectrum. However, those obligations should be separate from that telco's other obligations. Maybe the interconnection obligation, the universal service obligation. Okay, that means the obligations imposed onto the spectrum, onto the usage of 5G spectrums should be reviewed or considered separate from the obligations of that telco. That he was obligated to do so under other legal instruments. Well, it's a bit complicated. Okay, but okay, and the next one is the inclusion of internet access services. You may wonder, we have talked about the EU telecoms regulatory framework for a long time, but we did not see much about internet access. Because traditionally, the Commission, the European Union, thought, okay, the internet is some kind of services run onto the networks, run on the telecom networks. So the Commission does not want to interfere with the providing of internet services. You just leave the telcos to deal with those issues. For example, we have talked about network interconnection, but there's another kind of interconnection we call it internet interconnection. Well, it's a different kind of interconnection that occurs on internet. Okay, and I think this is one of the topics of our final essays, right? Okay, so there was in around 2005, sometime near that, there were some peering issues occurred between our two major telcos, Chunghwa Telecom and Taiwan Mobile. Okay, but we will not go further to that. Okay, so this is the internet interconnection is, well, there can be a lot of issues occurred during the process of internet interconnection, but the attitude held by the commission is it does not really want to intervene to the dispute occurred here because it thought internet is something wrong on the networks and it should be left to the telcos to deal with that. Okay. Then why is internet access included in the current telecom package here? Well, it's of course because the need for the use of internet becomes more important. Okay, especially later. Okay, so here the inclusion of internet access services is to include internet access into universal services. Okay, so the universal services in the European Union regulatory framework is not just about telephone anymore. It also includes the internet access. So it's somehow related to the issue of internet as a fundamental right, as a human right. But until now, well, to put it this way, well, when we are considering whether internet should be or internet access should be a human right or fundamental right, we also have to consider within that current situation whether internet includes just any internet or also include broadband internet. Okay, maybe sometimes in the future, broadband internet. This internet does not just mean internet; it will become broadband internet. Broadband internet. Okay, it's not just like maybe you has a basic requirement, maybe somehow. But currently, like broadband internet has not become a fundamental right within the European Union. Okay, it is a fundamental right within some member states of the European Union, but not for the whole